In an age of unprecedented connectivity, where our digital lives are just so intertwined with our physical world, how truly private are our movements, our conversations, even, the very walls of our homes? What if, and this is a big what if, a sophisticated global network was allegedly tracking individuals, not just digitally but physically, and maybe even influencing architectural design to create, well, inherent weaknesses?
It sounds like science fiction almost.
It really does. Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we sift through the complex information you've shared, aiming to pull out the most compelling insights and give you some clarity, maybe a fresh perspective.
And today's topic is definitely complex.
Oh, absolutely.
Huh?
Today, we're peeling back the layers on a truly extraordinary set of claims. They center around a class action lawsuit that honestly reads more like a high-stakes spy thriller than your typical legal filing. It touches on some very high-profile tech figures, alleged covert operations, and the very structure of, well, information control.
So what's the specific case we're looking at?
Right, the case is Aguirre v. Musk et al. It's a class action complaint filed in the United States District Court for the Southern District of Texas.
Okay.
If you're following along with the documents, the docket number is 4.25 CV02276.
Okay.
And there's a rescheduled conference date set for October 8th, 2025. But this isn't just about, the legal ins and outs. It's really about trying to understand this intricate, alleged web of surveillance that seems to blur the lines between digital and physical tracking.
So our goal today is to kind of map that out.
Exactly. Our mission is to navigate the various sources you've provided. We've got legal documents, personal accounts, some pretty technical observations, even geopolitical anecdotes thrown in. We want to understand the full scope of these alleged activities and the sophisticated systems described.
Right.
We're going to look at the who, the what, and the how of a system the plaintiff has dubbed the UBR of espionage.
Uber of espionage. That's quite a name.
It is, isn't it? That the deep dive is really about getting that knowledge quickly but thoroughly, hopefully giving you those aha moments about the potential reach of modern surveillance. It's about understanding the alleged mechanics, the potential impact on privacy, both personal and corporate, and the surprising ways it claims to show up in daily life. It really offers a unique perspective on information control and, well, our digital footprints. So let's jump in.
Yeah, what strikes me immediately is just the sheer ambition of these claims. The scope is immense. They're trying to connect dots between seemingly disparate events, personal incidents, international maneuvers into this one, single narrative of systematic global surveillance.
A big narrative.
It really is, and it fundamentally challenges how we usually think about privacy, especially now. With technology so deeply embedded in everything we do, it moves beyond just digital stuff into the physical world, even, as you said, the structure of buildings.
Absolutely, it is a lot to process. So let's maybe start with the legal battleground itself. We have this class action complaint filed in Texas alleging really, truly shocking violations of privacy and electronic communications.
Okay.
The core of the lawsuit is brought by plaintiff Ronaldo Aguirre. He's acting individually, but also on behalf of everyone else similarly situated. And he's alleging violations of the Electronic Communications Privacy Act. We'll call it ECPA.
Right, ECPA, that's the key federal law here.
Exactly. 18 U.S.C. Section 2511 and related state laws, too. For anyone not familiar, ECPA basically prohibits intentionally intercepting, accessing, or disclosing electronic communications without authorization.
So it's about protecting emails, phone calls, that kind of thing.
Precisely. So the central accusation here is huge.
Right.
Unlawful interception, access, and monitoring of the electronic communications and private whereabouts of technology company employees, including plaintiff and class members, without their consent.
Wow.
This isn't just, a minor disagreement. It's a claim of pervasive, non-consensual surveillance against potentially a massive group of people.
And the class definitions really underscore that potential scale, don't they? You mentioned two main groups.
That's right. First, there's a national class. This covers individuals in the U.S. who worked as engineers or engineering managers for companies supposedly controlled or influenced by the defendants and whose private electronic communications or location data were allegedly intercepted unlawfully.
Okay, so engineers and managers specifically.
Yes. And then there's a Texas wiretap law subclass. Same criteria, basically, but specifically for individuals within Texas. The complaint really emphasizes the potential impact, stating these tech companies associated with the defendants employ, quote, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of engineers.
Hundreds of thousands. That's staggering.
It is. The plaintiff estimates the national class alone could number 25,000 or more, with at least 1,000 just in Texas. This paints a picture of something widespread, not just isolated incidents. It suggests a highly organized, maybe even corporate-backed surveillance effort across multiple tech companies.
Yeah, that scale is critical for the class action status, isn't it? They need to show this wasn't just happening to one person.
Exactly. Commonality is key. The lawsuit highlights these shared questions of law and fact. Like, did the defendants use this alleged UBR of Espionage geo-index system to track locations and intercept communications? Did their conduct violate ECPA? Did it violate the Texas wiretap law? Did it constitute invasion of privacy? It implies this shared systematic injury hitting lots of people in similar ways, not just a random series of events. It's central to arguing this was a coordinated strategy.
Right. The class action element itself tells you the plaintiff believes this is a pattern, a widespread pattern of conduct affecting many people across different tech companies. If these allegations have merit, it implies a systematic violation of privacy, not just opportunistic snooping. And that raises huge questions about corporate responsibility and just how far these operations might reach inside the tech world.
Now, here's where it gets particularly, well, interesting. Because we're not talking about faceless corporations here. We're talking about individuals with significant influence, real names being named as defendants.
Okay, who's on the list?
First up, Elon Musk. The complaint alleges significant control and influence over various technology companies, including X Corp, formerly Twitter Inc., and Tesla Inc.
Right, obviously a major figure.
Then there's Travis Kalanick, co-founder of Uber Technologies.
Okay, another big tech name.
We also have David F. Hine, who's an attorney and partner at the law firm Voorhees, Sater, Seymour and Peace, LLP.
An attorney. Interesting.
And James Casey, who the complaint believes is a collaborator in cyber attacks against competitors of the defendants.
Wow, okay. Cyber attacks.
And finally, Wilmer Ruperti, believed to be involved in the relevant operations managed by the defendants, plus the usual John Does 1 through 100, representing unknown individuals and entities who might have participated.
So a mix of tech titans, legal counsel, and alleged operatives.
Exactly. And the complaint stresses that these defendants allegedly acted individually and in concert, as well as through separate and seemingly disconnected entities engaging in a pattern of unlawful conduct. It suggests a really intertwined, coordinated effort that crosses traditional corporate or legal lines.
That mix of figures is fascinating. Tech founders, lawyers, people allegedly involved in cyber attacks. It really suggests a highly coordinated, multifaceted operation if the claims are true. It points towards a potentially complex organizational structure behind it all, leveraging different sectors, tech, legal, maybe even covert ops to achieve this alleged surveillance goal. It's definitely not just about one person.
So let's turn to the plaintiff himself, Ronaldo Aguirre. Why does he believe he and others like him are the targets? His professional background is pretty extensive, nearly 18 years, from 2005 to 2023.
Where did he work?
Major tech companies, Merlin Edge Inc., Shaw Communications, Yahoo, Google, Goldman Sachs and their tech division, presumably, and then Twitter, which became X Corp.
So a long career spanning some big names.
Definitely. And the crucial link, according to the complaint, is the assertion that these companies were allegedly under the direct or indirect control or influence of one or more defendants.
Ah, okay. So that's the connection. That's why tech employees are the target class.
Precisely. That's the context. And Aguirre provided an affidavit back in May 2025, confirming that his own technical demonstrations and observations are the very basis for these quite far-reaching allegations. But just imagine for a moment your own career path, maybe across several big tech firms, potentially being part of some larger unseen network of influence or control. It's a really unsettling thought for anyone in that industry, or any connected industry, really.
Yeah, his personal and professional path connects directly to the alleged scheme. It gives a concrete example of how this supposed control might play out. His long time in the tech sector across these major companies does lend a certain weight, or at least an insider's perspective, to his claims about how things might work or the vulnerabilities within the industry. It turns these abstract legal claims into a very personal story of alleged targeting.
Okay, so at the absolute heart of all these allegations is something the plaintiff calls the UB of espionage.
Right. That name again.
It sounds like something straight out of Hollywood, but the claims actually detail its alleged origins and how it supposedly works. Our sources mention an application called Cuber.
Cuber, like Uber, but with a C.
Exactly. Described in a YouTube transcript, apparently, created by a company called Laser Computation. This app had a really straightforward, almost mundane purpose. It was for pilots.
For pilots? How so?
To request transport towards or from the airport with just one click. The idea was to reduce stress, reduce tardiness. Pilots could see carrier details, vehicle location, estimated arrival time. A totally useful logistics tool.
Okay, sounds pretty harmless, so where's the twist?
Well, the alleged betrayal comes in connecting this to a claim that Travis Kalanick steered Aguirre towards making a ride-sharing app prototype around 2015. So about 10 years ago now.
Oh, okay. Kalanick again.
Yes. The accusation is that these ideas from Cuber or the prototype were allegedly stolen and incorporated into their app codenamed Hell.
Hell, seriously?
Apparently. And this Hell app is identified as the Uber of espionage. The claim is it's currently used to, quote, track Aguirre's movements every second of the day.
Wow.
And Aguirre explicitly says, I built a prototype for them, and claims he knows how the app thinks.
That's a powerful claim. It raises a really critical question, doesn't it? How could a technology designed for something beneficial, like logistics, allegedly get twisted into a tool for pervasive constant tracking?
Right.
It really speaks to that dual-use nature of technology. Innovations with good intentions can potentially be repurposed. And the idea of conceptual misappropriation on that scale, it's significant. The claim that he built a prototype and knows how it thinks gives a unique kind of chilling perspective on the alleged system's inner workings. It suggests he has foundational knowledge of its design and, allegedly, its real intent.
And this isn't just some vague concept of an app. The complaint goes into detail about a sophisticated system that this UBR of espionage allegedly relies on. It's described as a massive geolocation database.
A database?
Yes, called the GeoIndex. Described as a vast geolocation database containing billions of specific geographical locations worldwide. Just an immense collection of data points.
Billions. Okay.
And Aguirre's alleged discovery and decoding of this system is, well, pretty fascinating. He claims he located and downloaded a file containing this GeoIndex from some server around September 11th, 2024.
He downloaded the whole thing.
That's the claim. He then says the GeoIndex uses encoders to store location data in an obscured format, so it's not immediately readable.
Right, to hide it.
But he apparently didn't stop there. Between September and November 2024, he claims he developed a proprietary system to decode and analyze this GeoIndex. His method supposedly involved correlating the data with public records and other information to identify patterns and significant locations.
So he claims he cracked it and built his own tool to make sense of it.
Essentially, yes.
The real aha moment here, if this is true, isn't just that they're allegedly tracking, but how. This GeoIndex seems to create a sort of living map where every location, a Tesla factory, a coffee shop, whatever, isn't just coordinates. It has a strategic score.
A score.
Yeah, indicating its importance to the network. This fundamentally changes how we think about public versus private space. It potentially weaponizes location data, turning it into an intelligence asset for alleged control. The technical depth, the plaintiff claims, actually decoding and analyzing the infrastructure that really sets this apart. It suggests an insider's level of understanding.
That's a profound point. This GeoIndex isn't just a list. It's claimed to be this dynamic map where locations get markers or metadata indicating their importance. Or, as you said, a numerical score, Aguirre's own metric for their strategic relevance to this alleged network. So a high score might flag a sensitive government building, maybe a key data center, or even in Aguirre's claims, places like Tesla gigafactories. It suggests where the network focuses its surveillance and resources. It's almost like a threat intelligence map, but applied to individuals and their associated locations.
Exactly.
And his analysis, using his own system, allegedly shows these high concentrations of scores linked to properties associated with defendant Elon Musk, like the gigafactories in Austin, Texas, and Berlin, Germany. It also apparently points to geographic locations allegedly used for routing communications, mentioning Venezuela and parts of Texas specifically.
Venezuela again? Interesting.
So what does this all mean for the people allegedly targeted? The complaint outlines specific systematic uses of this geolocation database and the technologies linked to it, supposedly stretching from around 2014 right up to the present. It sounds incredibly comprehensive.
Yeah, these alleged uses paint a picture of surveillance that's truly pervasive, going way beyond simple tracking. The system is claimed to track the physical whereabouts of the plaintiff and the class members, sure, but also to facilitate their physical interception by alleged agents.
Physical interception, like people on the ground.
That's the implication. And intercepting network traffic, electronic communications, but it goes further. The GeoIndex is also allegedly integrated with public platforms like Google Maps and Google Street View.
How?
They're allegedly used as means of covert communication and covert record keeping related to their surveillance operations. So it implies this hidden layer of activity overlaid onto publicly available information, effectively weaponizing everyday tools that, most of us use without a second thought.
That is a chilling thought. Mundane tools like online maps potentially repurposed for a clandestine network. But it apparently doesn't stop there.
No.
The complaint also alleges they operate a covert communications network to transmit digital information locally and internationally to further this surveillance scheme. And beyond location and comms, there are claims that defendants or agents unlawfully gained access to private and confidential information.
What kind of information?
Things like medical records, insurance records, banking information, securities transactions. This could potentially violate major privacy acts like HIPAA that protects patient health info and GLBA, the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act, which protects consumer financial privacy.
So health and financial data, too. Wow.
Yeah. And the claims even extend to allegedly buying or leasing properties near targets for electronic and visual surveillance.
Yeah.
It's just a completely all-encompassing picture of alleged intrusion.
This is critical because it suggests the alleged network isn't just tracking movements, it's about building a comprehensive profile of individuals, using both physical and digital means to gather highly sensitive personal and financial data. The alleged use of real estate for surveillance also adds this tangible, physical dimension. It shows a willingness, supposedly, to invest significant resources just to get close to targets. It suggests a strategic, long-term approach to intelligence gathering that's incredibly invasive.
Right. It's one thing to talk about vast systems and databases, but it's another to hear how it allegedly plays out in someone's daily life. The plaintiff describes quite a few personal experiences that really bring these claims into sharp focus, making them very tangible for you to visualize.
Okay, like what?
We'll consider these specific incidents he claims happened to him. On August 9th, 2024, an individual in a white truck allegedly followed him. When he pulled into a Clear Channel Outdoors parking lot, this individual supposedly activated the automatic gates to trap plaintiff on the premises.
Trapped him. Physically.
That's the claim. A direct physical act of confinement. Then, August 18th, 2024, he's at a park in Katy, Texas, and an individual was allegedly observed recording and transmitting plaintiff's location as he walked nearby.
So direct visual observation of tracking.
Yes, moving beyond just data points to actual real-world encounters.
These anecdotes really provide specific, tangible examples of what he's describing as this coordinated, persistent surveillance effort. The direct interference, like being trapped in a parking lot or aggressive driving incidents we might get to, it highlights a confrontational aspect. It's not just passive monitoring, potentially. It pushes beyond abstract allegations into concrete, potentially pretty alarming incidents in his day-to-day life.
And it apparently continues. March 1st, 2025, an individual, believed to be an agent of defendants, allegedly emerged from a neighboring property and attempted to intercept plaintiff near his vehicle.
Attempted to intercept him.
Yeah. When Aguiar paused, a second attempt was supposedly made. It sounds like an active physical attempt at contact or maybe interception. Then there's this recurring vehicle, the Britos 1 SUV.
Britos 1, a vanity plate?
Apparently. A black Suburban. On at least 2 occasions between September 2024 and May 2025, this SUV allegedly intercepted the plaintiff. In December 2024, the driver drove aggressively towards plaintiff's vehicle, nearly causing a collision.
Wow, that's serious.
And then on May 4th, 2025, the same SUV was seen just passing his residence. That feels like a different level of alleged harassment, moving into active intimidation. And perhaps, most notably, March 5th, 2024, Aguiar actually met with an FBI agent at a place called Campesino Coffee House to report these alleged activities.
Okay, he went to the FBI.
Yes. Subsequently, on February 7th, 2025, his system, the one he built to analyze the GeoIndex, allegedly discovered that the address of Campesino Coffee House was being tracked by the geolocation database.
They tracked the location of his FBI meeting.
That's the allegation.
That is particularly notable. If true, it suggests the network has the capability to monitor not just the individual, but also their attempts to report or get help. That would be a significant escalation in a surveillance scenario. It implies a high level of situational awareness from the alleged watchers, extending even to his attempts to counter them. You have to wonder what the psychological toll of experiencing that level of persistent physical interference would be. It's not just data anymore, it's potentially a lived threat.
And the alleged surveillance isn't just confined to him alone. It apparently extends its reach to people around him, friends, family, even people providing personal services. This indicates a kind of network effect in the targeting, aiming to map out an individual's entire social and professional world.
Right, not just the target, but their connections.
Exactly. For instance, August 26, 2024, Aguar's system allegedly identified an 8-digit prefix match between the phone number of Francisco Castillo, described as a longtime friend, and his landscaper at the time.
A phone number prefix match? How is that significant?
He describes it as a statistical anomaly indicative of surveillance coordination, implying it's too unlikely to be coincidence.
That's an interesting detail. This alleged tracking of associates and services, it really highlights the potential to map someone's entire social and professional sphere. It's not just about tracking the person, maybe, but understanding their connections, their support systems, even their routines by monitoring those around them. That level of detail suggests a comprehensive intelligence gathering operation, not just simple surveillance. It's about building a full profile of the target's world.
Precisely. Properties registered to Olesa Luzanova, a former close friend, were allegedly tracked in August 2024. The home of Patricia Rojas, a longtime family friend, tracked in January 2025. Then, in March 2025, his system supposedly found that the residences of Merida Oropesa, a former employee who cared for his son Jose Castillo, a friend and former employee, and Veronica Sanchez, his CPA for tax year 2022, were all being tracked.
His accountant, too.
Yes. Even his dentist, Cinco Meadows Dental, where he's a patient, allegedly tracked on February 11th, 2025. It really drives the point home. Think about how easily your own digital and physical links, friends, family, dentist, accountant, could potentially be mapped and monitored in a system like this. And notably, January 27, 2025, Aguar's system allegedly detected that all companies known to be owned or directed by defendant Elon Musk were being tracked by the geolocation database.
Wait, Musk's own companies were being tracked by this system?
That's the allegation, suggests a pervasive presence within these key entities, maybe even some kind of internal monitoring or bidirectional tracking.
That's fascinating. This broad scope extending to personal contacts, professional contacts, even the companies of a main defendant. It suggests a deeply interconnected web of monitoring. It hints at a strategy to create a full influence map around a target, not just focusing on the individual. And tracking Musk's companies implies a kind of self-referential quality to the network, which is really intriguing. It might reveal the network's own priorities or internal connections.
Okay, so beyond the physical tracking, the sources get into some truly sophisticated technical methods allegedly used by this network, and also how the plaintiff claims he's actively disrupting them.
All right, the technical side.
Let's look at something called the two-step satellite surveillance tactic. This is detailed in an August 27, 2025 intelligence brief apparently written by Aguar. The goal of this method is pretty clever. Reduce the search space for surveillance aircraft and allow them to operate at higher, less obvious altitudes.
Makes sense. Harder to spot from the ground.
Right. It showcases a blend of physical and digital reconnaissance that aims to be both precise and discreet.
This multi-stage approach sounds remarkably sophisticated. It gets around the difficulty of wide-area, high-altitude surveillance by using a close-range ground team first for initial signal identification. That narrows down the aerial search significantly, making it less detectable. The focus on things like SSL encryption signatures and MMAS addresses suggests they're not just trying to locate, but potentially identify and maybe even exploit specific communication streams. It's an incredibly detailed operational account, showing an alleged deep understanding of satellite comms protocols and how to exploit their unique signatures.
So here's how it allegedly works. Step 1. The ground vehicle, also called the spotter. A vehicle first passes Aguar's house to listen, using RF detectors presumably for directional radio frequency signals coming specifically from his Viasat satellite antenna.
Okay, targeting his specific dish.
Yes. This allows them to capture a short list of candidate ME addresses and SSL encryption signatures. Now, just to break that down for everyone, a MAS address is like a unique serial number for any device on a network.
Right, like your phone or computer has one.
Exactly. And SSL encryption signatures are basically the digital fingerprints that secure your internet connection, proving a website is legitimate and scrambling your data. So the ground vehicle is allegedly trying to grab these unique identifiers to pick out Aguar's specific satellite signal from all the others in the area, even from way up high.
Got it, so they get the signature first.
Then, step 2, the aircraft, or the hunter. If the ground vehicle successfully gets that signature, a plane then flies over. This aircraft uses that short list of MRA addresses to filter out all the background noise from other antennas and isolate Aguar's signal from a high altitude. It's described as a precise, coordinated attack on his internet connection, making it nearly impossible to detect from the ground without knowing what to look for.
That is highly technical, a coordinated ground air operation just to pinpoint one satellite uplink. It really highlights that blend of physical presence and digital snooping, aimed at being precise but also stealthy. The use of those specific terms suggests, again, a deep technical knowledge behind the alleged operation.
But here's the countermove. Aguar claims he's actively defeating this tactic. And his countermeasure is, well, surprisingly simple but also kind of brilliant.
Oh, what does he do?
When he sees or hears a vehicle passing in front of his house that he suspects might be a spotter, he immediately disconnects and reconnects his network.
Just turns his router off and on again?
Essentially, yes. Or disconnects the satellite modem. This forces what's called an SSL renegotiation. Basically, it instantly changes the encryption keys.
Ah, so the signature they captured is no good anymore.
Exactly. The signature grabbed by the ground vehicle becomes obsolete and useless to the aircraft, thereby breaking the chain of their attack. He's literally disrupting their real-time targeting by refreshing his encryption.
That's clever, using the system's own security features against it.
Right. He even states he's informed them, presumably the network, that this two-step approach has a fundamental tactical flaw. He says it doubles their probability detection because it gives him two separate chances, the ground vehicle and the aircraft, to notice the surveillance attempt. It really illustrates this high-stakes, real-time cat-and-mouse game where the person allegedly being targeted is actively developing and deploying counter-strategies against some pretty sophisticated methods.
Yeah, that insight into the countermeasure really highlights the vulnerabilities that can exist even in advanced surveillance tactics. Using SSL renegotiation, a fundamental part of secure communication, to neutralize the data gathered by the ground team. That's smart. And his point about the fundamental tactical flaw is crucial too. It suggests an alleged network that, despite its sophistication, might be locked into a specific operational sequence, even if it increases their risk of being detected. It speaks to a potential over-reliance on one method that a knowledgeable target can then exploit.
Now, moving from the highly technical to something truly unique, maybe even a bit bizarre, it's this idea that the very architecture of a home could be a deliberate part of a surveillance or infiltration strategy.
The architecture, how so?
Well, while he was replacing his exterior locks, Aguirre noticed what he calls a peculiar design feature in his house. And he notes this is the house allegedly sold by Diosdado Cabello, a prominent Venezuelan politician, adding another layer of intrigue.
Okay, what was the feature?
The house has 6 exterior doors, but only 4 bedrooms.
6 doors for 4 bedrooms? That is unusual.
More entrances than rooms. But it gets stranger. 2 of these entrances are double French doors made of small 8-by-8-inch glass panes. He describes this as an incredibly weak design for an exterior door.
Small glass panes, yeah, those aren't very secure.
Right. He notes an intruder would only need to break one small pane to reach in and unlock the door from the inside. He argues this isn't just an odd design choice, it's a chilling physical manifestation of the alleged network's collective thinking and actions, a premeditated architectural exploit. It reveals how deeply they might, allegedly, integrate vulnerabilities right into a target's physical environment.
Wow. That really raises an important question, doesn't it? If that theory is accurate, it would indicate an absolutely astonishing level of premeditation and control, creating a physical exploit within a person's living space itself.
Yeah.
That moves way beyond digital surveillance into potential physical compromise, designed right into the structure of the home. It suggests as a long-term strategic intent to maintain access or create vulnerabilities for future use. The idea of architectural subversion, that's a deeply unsettling expansion of what we normally think of as surveillance.
And he contrasts this with what he claims are the surrounding houses of known agents, which he says all have a standard, more secure layout with more bedrooms than entrances.
So he's saying his house is uniquely vulnerable compared to others nearby associated with the alleged network.
That's his theory. This isn't a random architectural quirk, he argues. He believes the network's architects deliberately designed this house with an excessive number of weak entry points to create a built-in security vulnerability. He suggests it's a contingency, making it easier for them to break in and harm him, especially in some kind of high-stakes situation. He also throws in a mention of the keymaker, maybe having more info on this design philosophy.
The keymaker, another code name.
Seems like it. But the core idea that your living environment could be compromised by design, maybe years in advance, that's a deeply unsettling and provocative thought. It hints at almost an architectural form of espionage.
That alleged contrast between his home and those of known agents is particularly telling. If that could be proven, it would imply a purposeful difference in security levels, almost as if his home was pre-configured to be a target. That level of alleged manipulation, extending right into the physical environment, speaks to extremely thorough and patient operational planning that considers every possible avenue of access. It's an extreme example of control, where even the basic physical safety of a target's home is allegedly compromised by design.
So after all these intense details, this pervasive surveillance, a curious and significant shift has apparently been observed more recently. Aguiar noted a sudden shift in the network's behavior. Specifically, he claims their overt surveillance has dropped to 15% of its normal intensity.
15%, that's a huge drop, almost like they've just pulled back significantly.
Exactly.
What's truly intriguing here is that even within such an alleged complex operation, there are identifiable changes in tactics. That immediately makes you ask, what could cause such a significant and sudden reduction in intensity for what's described as a sophisticated, ongoing surveillance effort? It suggests either a strategic rethink, maybe a response to external pressures, or perhaps some kind of operational setback for the network. It's a critical moment for trying to understand their vulnerabilities.
And the plaintiff has developed a few theories to try and explain this shift. Each one offers a slightly different window into the alleged network's operations and maybe their motivations.
Okay, what are the theories?
Theory number one centers on the removal of a close-range tracking device. Apparently, on the evening of August 24th, while cleaning his armored SUV, which he calls the KOL Mobile Aguiar, found a strange pendant hidden in the back of a seat.
A pendant, like jewelry.
The description is vague, but he says it was definitely not there when he inspected the vehicle back in November 2024. His hypothesis: this device was an induction-powered audio bug and tagging mechanism.
Induction-powered, so no batteries needed.
That seems to be the implication. And to function, it would have required them to follow me closely. This device supposedly fed his precise location and cabin audio into their Uber of Espionage app to coordinate harassment.
Wow. So finding and removing it could explain the drop in close surveillance.
That's his belief. By removing it, he thinks he may have eliminated their motivation for close-range surveillance, which he says now occurs from 300 500 feet away, which is much less obvious. He also has a sub-theory. His new internal and inward-facing cameras on the KOL Mobile have removed their motivation to break into the vehicle, reducing their worry about him leaving a store unexpectedly if they no longer need to plant or retrieve things from inside.
That theory provides a very direct insight into potential operational vulnerabilities and dependencies. The idea of removing a physical device that necessitated close-range tracking is a very concrete explanation for a shift in tactics. It shows how a simple, targeted countermeasure could potentially have this cascading effect on a surveillance operation. It suggests a dependency on specific hardware for certain types of monitoring, and removing it would disrupt that whole chain of close-range activity.
Okay, theory number two is different. It involves anticipating geopolitical blowback.
Geopolitical, how so?
Aguiar posits that letters he sent to lawmakers around the world have likely started arriving. He believes the network, by allegedly spying on these officials, is likely seeing the initial negative reactions.
So they're spying on government officials too, allegedly.
That's the implication within this theory, and their response. They may be anticipating that something big is coming and have decided to adopt a low-key posture as a precaution. This implies a global awareness within the network and a strategic decision to just lower their profile because of potential international heat. Interestingly, he specifically discards the possibility that the shift is just a reaction to a local book-mailing campaign he conducted. He states the network allegedly considers its local agents to be replaceable resources and not care if they are exposed, as the leadership remains insulated in places like Caracas.
Caracas again. That detail about leadership being insulated in places like Caracas is a really significant geographic and political anchor. It connects the operational tactics to a potential command and control structure in a specific region, which aligns with the earlier mention of Venezuela as a routing location in the Geo-Index. It hints at a highly centralized leadership with global reach. And the idea of geopolitical blowback suggests an awareness of the global implications of their alleged activities and a sensitivity to international scrutiny.
And speaking of intriguing mysteries and international connections, especially involving Venezuela, we have to talk about something described as the ghost plane enigma. This is an unsolved puzzle dating back to around 2022.
The ghost plane enigma. Okay. The significance here, potentially, lies in how this seemingly isolated anecdote might give us a crucial piece of understanding how an alleged covert communications or logistics network operates. especially given those previous mentions of Venezuela as a key routing location in the GeoIndex. And that friend, Francisco Castillo, whose phone number was supposedly part of a surveillance coordination anomaly. It adds another layer of international intrigue and potential state-level involvement. It could even illustrate the infrastructure needed for element C of that nuclear weapon framework, the coordination of important human systems.
Right. So the story comes from Francisco Castillo, Aguilar's longtime friend, apparently told during a card game. Castillo recounted his time working at a travel agency back in Ciudad Ojeda, Venezuela. He had this regular client, a high-ranking military general.
A Venezuelan general.
Yes. This general would frequently call to book all the seats on Conviasa international flights. Conviasa is a Venezuelan state airline, and he'd fill the manifest with the names of Venezuelan military personnel.
Okay, booking whole planes for the military. Maybe troop transport.
That's what you'd think. But the central mystery is that Castillo was convinced the named passengers never actually traveled and that the planes must have flown empty.
Empty planes? Why would you book an entire plane and fly it empty?
Exactly. And here's the critical detail that elevates this. The general paid for these mass bookings in U.S. dollars.
U.S. dollars in Venezuela.
Yes, during a time of strict exchange controls, when transacting in foreign currency without explicit government permission was a crime. It immediately raises red flags about illicit financial activity circumventing national laws.
Definitely suspicious.
Aguilar documents this because he thinks it could be significant. He poses these lingering questions. Why book an entire commercial flight with phantom passengers? Wouldn't the authorities at the destination airport notice that an entire passenger cabin was empty? What was being transported on these ghost planes in place of people? He suggests if authorities ever talk to Francisco Castillo, they could ask him for details. It really conjures this powerful image of potential covert operations on an international scale, possibly involving state actors or powerful networks, and the high financial stakes involved.
Yeah, that anecdote paints a vivid picture of a potential large-scale clandestine operation using existing infrastructure commercial flights for non-commercial purposes. The illegal use of U.S. dollars during strict controls underscores a deliberate circumvention of laws and financial systems, hinting at deep organization and resources. Those unanswered questions about cargo and purpose are definitely provocative. They suggest a complex, hidden agenda far beyond simple travel, possibly connecting to high-level state or network coordination.
So this entire deep dive, all these threads, the lawsuit, the tracking, the tech, the anecdotes, the plaintiff, suggests it's all part of something even bigger, something he has called a nuclear weapon, in the context of what he describes as a 20 years investigation. This is the overarching theory trying to tie it all together.
Right. That term, nuclear weapon, it's highly provocative, obviously. But the way he seems to use it, it aims to encapsulate the alleged destructive potential of this system. Not destructive in a kinetic sense, like a bomb, but in its ability to completely compromise privacy, exert pervasive control, and manipulate information. It represents his theoretical culmination of decades of observation, a model for understanding how such a grand alleged scheme might operate. It's important to see this as the plaintiff's unifying framework for everything he claims has happened.
And he summarizes this nuclear weapon as having 3 core elements, supposedly discovered back in 1997. Element A, illegal surveillance using radio frequencies. Element B, collective thinking and actions. And element C, coordination of 2% of individuals composing 2% of the most important human systems on the planet, using A and B.
Okay, A, B, and C.
So what does this all mean? I mean, it's a massive claim, a really bold claim. But when you look back at the mosaic of allegations we've just unpacked, you start to see how these pieces might theoretically fit into this larger, quite unsettling picture.
Exactly. This framework is essentially his proposed blueprint for understanding how such a pervasive global surveillance and influence network might operate. It combines advanced technology, A, coordinated human effort, B, and strategic placement within critical systems. So let's try to break down how this framework could unify the allegations we've discussed.
Okay, let's connect the dots. Element A first, illegal surveillance using radio frequencies.
Right. We saw direct links here. The two-step satellite surveillance tactic explicitly involves listening for directional radio frequency signals from his Viasat antenna. That's pure RF surveillance. We also heard about the alleged induction-powered audio bug and tagging mechanism found in the KOL mobile that would almost certainly communicate using radio frequencies. And of course, the entire lawsuit's core accusation is the unlawful interception of electronic communications, much of which travels via RF signals like Wi-Fi Wi-Fi, cellular, satellite. The persistent tracking of locations and communications fundamentally relies on this technological backbone. Element A seems well represented in the specific claims.
That makes perfect sense. The technical details really map directly onto that first element, showing how signal interception is allegedly key.
Precisely. Now, element B, collective thinking and actions. This seems evident in so many parts of the story. Think about that coordinated ground-air surveillance tactic. Ground vehicles and aircraft working together perfectly require sophisticated collective thinking and action to pull off.
Sure does.
Then there's the alleged deliberate design of the targeted house with its architectural weaknesses. Claiming it was a contingency for a break-in suggests a collective, premeditated strategy by these supposed architects to create a physical exploit. That's collective action over time.
Right, planning ahead.
The specific instances of physical interception being trapped at Clear Channel, the aggressive driving by the Britos 1 SUV, these all imply coordinated human actions on the ground. And the very foundation of the class action lawsuit is that the defendants acted individually and in concert through various entities. That's the definition of collective action. Even that statistical anomaly with the phone number prefix match between the friend and the landscaper was flagged as potentially indicating surveillance coordination. All these point towards an alleged network where members act with a shared purpose, often in a highly synchronized way.
That's a really comprehensive view of how the human element, acting together, forms such a critical part of the alleged scheme. It's not just about the tech, it's about orchestrated human behavior.
And finally, we get to element C, coordination, of 2% of individuals composing 2% of the most important human systems on the planet, using A and B above. This is the grand unifying theory, the strategic layer. It ties together the highest levels of alleged influence.
Okay, how do the pieces fit here?
Well, connect it first to the high-profile defendants, people like Elon Musk with his alleged significant control and influence over companies like X Corp and Tesla, and Travis Kalanick, the Uber co-founder. Their alleged involvement implies coordination right at the top of technology company teams, which are undeniably important human systems in today's world.
Right, major players in critical sectors.
Then, think about the GeoIndex itself. It allegedly contains markers for intelligence positions and military positions, along with those high concentrations of scores around properties linked to Musk, like the Tesla Gigafactories. This suggests a focus on strategically important locations and infrastructure within these important systems. The mention of Venezuela and Texas as geographic locations allegedly used for routing communications via the GeoIndex further suggests a global reach for this coordination, hinting at strategic nodes of operation across borders.
And the ghost plane enigma fits right in here too, doesn't it? That high-ranking military general in Venezuela booking entire commercial flights with phantom passengers, paying in illegal U.S. dollars during exchange controls.
Absolutely.
That speaks directly to influential individuals operating within important human systems, the military, state airlines, international finance, manipulating resources, and potentially engaging in covert transport on an international scale. It seems like a textbook example of high-level coordination as described in Element C.
It really is a powerful illustration of that element, potentially linking state actors or powerful networks directly into the alleged scheme. And let's not forget that discarded theory about why surveillance dropped the idea that the leadership remains insulated in places like Caracas. This points to a hierarchical, globally distributed network with command structure possibly rooted in specific geopolitical regions, further reinforcing the idea of coordination across these important human systems. So this conceptual model, A, B, and C, allows us to potentially understand how seemingly disparate incidents from a weird house design to empty planes and weird phone number matches could theoretically be part of one vast, interconnected system operating at the highest levels of human influence, potentially impacting everything from your personal privacy to national security.
We have taken quite a deep dive today into a truly extraordinary collection of allegations. We started with that class action lawsuit, Aguiar v. Musk et al., naming those high-profile defendants and alleging pervasive privacy violations under ECPA and other laws. We then explored the chilling concept of the UBR of espionage and its alleged GeoIndex, charting the detailed mechanics of its tracking from sophisticated two-step satellite signals right down to the surprisingly unsettling idea of architectural anomalies designed for infiltration into someone's home.
Right, the house design was particularly strange.
It really was. We considered the recent shifts in surveillance tactics, trying to understand the network's alleged vulnerabilities and maybe the external pressures it faces. And finally, we delved into that intriguing unsolved mystery of the ghost planes, which hinted at potential covert international operations on a massive scale.
It's a lot to take in.
It is. This deep dive has really been a journey into trying to understand the complex, often hidden world of alleged surveillance. It offers not just information, but perhaps for you, an aha moment about the potential sophistication of operations like these, the profound implications for personal privacy, for corporate security, even for national sovereignty, and how even seemingly unrelated events could potentially be woven into a larger narrative of control and influence.
It certainly raises fundamental questions.
It does.
Yeah.
So here's a provocative thought for you to carry forward from this. Considering everything we've discussed, what would it actually take to dismantle a system described as being so deeply embedded, so seemingly omnipresent, one that allegedly operates right at the intersection of technology, finance, and maybe even geopolitics? And maybe more personally, how would we as individuals truly know if we're part of its vast unseen net, or if we're simply bystanders to its grand design?
That's the unsettling part, isn't it? That not knowing.
Exactly. We really encourage you to reflect on the sources of information you consume, the data you share, perhaps even without thinking about it, and the unseen forces that might be shaping our information landscape. The questions raised today are profound, and they're definitely worth continuing to explore.